We're live.
We're kind of. We're not live, but we are recording.
We're live. We're not.
So we're going to talk about Lakai today, and there's a lot of noise going on with Lakai, and I thought it would be fun, entertaining, interesting to walk you through some of the gossip and drama that is unfolding with Lakai over the last month or so here.
Can I give my background to Lakai?
Sure. What do you know about Lakai?
First, we had a non-skater friend wearing Lakai shoes, and you were like, oh, you're wearing Lakais. And they were like, yeah. And you're like, interesting. And then you're like, these are skate shoes. And I didn't know that. And I'm not sure this friend did either. And then...
You're talking about Cariuma.
You sure? Mm-hmm. It's a classic mix-up. Then, part two of what I know, which apparently is only part one, you wore a pair of Lakais.
Yeah, no, I had a pair of Lakais. I learned back nose once in them.
Oh.
So, yeah, they worked well. They worked.
I told you that. And then we were in a skate shop, Humidity in New Orleans, and they mentioned the Lakai thing. The person that bought Lakai's LinkedIn post. And so that's where I'm coming into the conversation, here for some hot goss.
Hot goss.
Whoa.
All right, well, we'll jump into the hot goss. Plus, you know, you've enjoyed a career in business and acquisitions, and it'll be fun to talk about.
We love an M&A.
Maybe not. Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Lakai started in 1999.
Wow.
And it was established by two skaters, Rick Howard and Mike Carroll. And as I understand it, they started it because they didn't want to just take a shoe sponsor. They wanted to start their own company and make shoes and sponsor other skaters and build a business, right?
They wanted to do more.
Exactly. So it started in 1999.
Okay.
And there have been some very famous people, big names, who have ridden for Lakai over the years. I'm curious if you could name some of them.
I have no idea who this man is.
You have no idea. So, okay.
Okay, give me initials.
He's half of the Barracks.
Well, his name's not Steve.
Yep.
I didn't know there was two halves of the Barracks.
Okay, so that's Eric Costin. The Barracks is Barra and Eric. The Barracks. Steve Barra, Eric Costin.
No, that... I had no idea.
I picked out three skaters that I think you might know. Least likely to most likely that you'll get them. So next up, do you know who that is?
Initials.
RH.
Ryan Haran. Same like pair. No, who's that?
That's Riley Hawk.
I know of Riley Hawk.
There you go.
His dad. Pretty decent skateboarder.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And so the next one who's also ridden for Lakai.
Tony, young Tony. Yeah.
There you go.
We all know Tony.
So Lakai has had some like pretty famous riders through the years. And then they're really well known for this video from 2007 called Fully Flared.
Love talking about this. Is Mike Moe in this?
There you go. That was going to be my next question. Do you know who had
Mike Moe.
A breakout part in this video? Mike Moe. He filmed it when he was 16. So from 99 to 2007, they had put out like one or two tour videos. They were adding people to the team. Fully Flared they started filming it in I think 2003 or 2004, and then kept pushing the deadline back. It was a super hyped up video. It was in the magazines for like 2 years before it came out. So like, it was such a big deal because people were on the edge of their seats waiting for it. And it was at the end of the era where videos took years and years to film, and they were hyped up in the magazines, and kind of Fully Flared was one of the last ones that had that big splash before you just had to make videos faster and they would go straight to the internet.
What are magazines saying about a video 2 years in advance?
Like, they did a trip to Barcelona.
Oh, and it's like, here's the trip that they're doing for Fully Flared, and here's a little bit about it.
So there's a whole article about the trip, and there's photos from the tricks they got on the trip, and you know that those tricks will be in Fully Flared.
Wow.
But all of a sudden, you know, that article's in 2005. And yeah. I don't know if that's real, but that as an example.
And we like instant gratification now.
Now we do, yeah. But back then, so it just builds this hype cycle for years and years. and then it eventually comes out at the end of 2007, right? After that, though, they kind of, I don't know, didn't do the best job of capitalizing on it and start to have some issues. Also, industry issues, right? So between 2008 and 2011, they lost 5 riders to these brands on here, which are much bigger brands, which can pay riders much more. And it's also the same era where these guys are entering the skate world and entering it with a lot of money. So I don't necessarily blame some of these riders who are objectively getting much better deals, career-wise, money-wise, by taking some of these. Then in 2015, they lost their brand manager who had been there for a long time, and one of their designers, the main designer, who had also been there for almost a decade, if not longer. Then we go to 2017, and Lakai is acquired by HUF. I don't know if you've heard of HUF before. Altamont Capital brought Lakai into HUF, and they've been helping them for 2 years. So HUF is a company started by this guy, Keith Hupnagel. HUF has like a ton of retail stores today, but what HUF is probably most known for to non-skaters in particular is the weed socks. I don't know if you remember the weed socks of like 2010 to 2012. Like a bunch of kids at school would have the HUF weed socks. Like it was a thing.
I thought HUF was an overpriced mainstream version of a skate brand. I didn't know it started as a core skate brand. I didn't know it actually started as a weed sock company.
It didn't start as a weed sock company. But that is partially what made it blow up in mainstream, which I think from the skate side was a nice boost, but not really what they were all about. They at some point like, we're going to discontinue them, and then it got discovered and probably made them a lot of money. Altamont Capital is who brought Lakai into HUF.
How does that work?
I'll explain in a minute, but I just want to explain who Altamont Capital is. They're a private equity firm. They've got $4 billion in capital under management right now, and they focus on companies who are undergoing a transition, operational or strategic. In HUF's case, based on the timing, they bought them in 2014 or invested in them in 2014. My guess, based on understanding where HUF was, is that they were blowing up and were trying to expand substantially and needed one, investment, and two, some management help to be able to actually pull that off.
Yep.
So to review our timeline here, Lakai starts in 99, HUF starts in 2002, HUF gets acquired or becomes under the Altamont Capital umbrella in 2014, and Lakai becomes a part of that as well in 2017.
Well, and I think it's important to say that it sounds like between 2008 and 2011, you have a lull for Lakai, right?
Yeah.
So then what were they, well, you'll probably tell me what they were doing for those next 6 years before they got acquired. Were they just like...
I mean, well, you saw in 2015, some key people left. In the summer of 2017, they finally put out a second video, but like the roster had turned over twice by then. They're good pro skaters, but you know, it makes sense why they needed some help and became part of HUF. So 2017, we got Altamont with HUF, and Lakai is at this point a part of HUF.
Okay.
So then in late 2017, it gets sold to this company called TSI Holdings, which is a Japanese private equity company. And we actually see a price on that. So 90% stake for $63 million. And Lakai was just a part of that deal. So predominantly it was HUF, and Lakai makes up some percent of that, but really don't know how much, and it clearly is not the main thing. So let's look at who TSI is real quick. They are a Japanese portfolio. They have a bunch of brands. In looking at it, they actually have a couple brands I recognized. Stussy was one.
Learned about that in Australia too.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't know much about them, but they're skate adjacent at least. And then the other one that stood out was Tactics, which was the skate shop we went to in Eugene, Oregon.
I was like, where have I seen that before?
Yeah. They have a couple of retail stores, and they do snowboard stuff and whatnot. Yeah. And so, yeah, this company, TSI, holds them as well. So TSI held them from late 2017 when they bought them until fall of 2024. TSI still owns HUF.
Okay.
In fall 2024, a company called Inversal buys Lakai. So that was announced in a LinkedIn post by this guy, Marc Roca. Marc Roca makes this LinkedIn post. I didn't copy the full thing because this is kind of the gist of it, but a very, I don't know,
It's a very clickbaity LinkedIn post. It's like, and it's unfortunate because it's like those salespeople who are like, after getting engaged to my fiance this weekend, here are 3 things I learned about sales and small business to business, blah, blah, blah. But unfortunately, he's kind of being serious.
Yeah, it's very LinkedIn jargony nonsense. I don't know. In addition to the 70-hour labor with the birth of his daughter, he buys Lakai.
I'm sorry. Touting a 70-hour labor for the pursuit of capitalistic success is just downright disrespectful. And I saw his wife's comment on here. I know she was in on the whole bit, but like, I can't even imagine 70 hours of labor.
Yeah.
70? That's more than 3, that's about 3 days. Okay, continue.
Okay. So let's look at his company, Inversal, of which he is the CEO. On LinkedIn, they describe themselves very simply. They take distressed situations and they turn them around. Yikes. If you look on their website, they are e-commerce experts, acquired, founded, grown, and operated over 30 brands in the last 8 years. And their focus is to find high potential distressed e-commerce brands, acquire and perform cost-cutting turnaround to each brand, and then make sure lenders are paid accordingly. So
that does sound like how you maintain culture. I was being sarcastic.
I know, I know. So yeah, they find distressed e-commerce brands, and like that's their whole thing's e-commerce. And actually, if you look a little closer, it's mostly Amazon brands. So let's look a little bit at Marc himself. If you look at his experience, he became an e-commerce owner back in 2007 and made an e-com website, I guess. Then he made this other store and did more e-commerce stuff in the luxury good department. I don't know. Then he was a professional poker player for 5 years. 4 million hands, Emily. And after that, he founds a couple of different things. So he founds HUF Capital, which again buys e-commerce brands and makes them profitable. They focus on acquisitions under $1 million. They've bought 10 brands. He also has another Amazon sellers optimization agency. So he's like a guy messing around on Amazon. What was interesting about this is a lot of the videos of people talking about that I have seen describe him as like the private equity suit that comes in and just takes it up.
He's not.
He is not that.
No, he's trying his best to be that guy, but he's not that.
Yeah, I would agree. He's not buying like reputable business. Like TSI Holdings has a bunch of reputable brands. He does not buy brands. He buys people white labeling things on Amazon, selling those, and that is what his background is on. I mean, under the definition of private equity, this does fit, but in terms of what I think most people consider or think of when they hear private equity, this is not a high level version of that.
Right.
Least.
I guess my takeaway here is like he looks like a nice guy in that headshot. Mm-hmm. Good job. But just like in general, because I saw the headline of making Lakai like the foremost core skate brand or whatever, like that's not how private equity works.
Then
Sorry.
he founds Inversal, and Inversal acquires brands in distressed situations with up to $25 million in revenue. That makes it sound like he only buys brands who are doing $25 million in revenue. A different LinkedIn post he made actually a week after the Lakai acquisition suggests that the total amount of revenues of all the brands he has acquired totals $25 million.
Oh, there should be a comma there. Situations, comma, with up to $25 million in revenue.
That was my takeaway. I don't know that that's completely correct, but based on putting together some of the pieces, that's what I got.
So sorry, one more. In 15 years, he's started 5 businesses?
Yeah, actually, there's a couple I didn't put on here. He's like the number of present roles he has is like 4 or 5.
Suspicious.
I would agree. And now he is the CEO of Lakai, and he is leading the brand turnaround with Rick and Mike.
He seems qualified.
If you want to hear directly from him,
I do.
When did you start buying businesses, and why did you start buying businesses?
So the story is my business partner wanted to find a wife, so we went to the Philippines for summer, and
wait, what?
Oh, that was just a good snippet I saw on this podcast. This is the only other thing unrelated to the Lakai news. This is the only thing I could find about him.
That his business partner wanted to not buy a wife, even though that Freudian slip was not far off. What?
I don't know. Anyway, so now we'll talk about what the deal is with Lakai.
Okay.
So Inversal buys Lakai on October 1st. There's an interview published on October 28th in this, it's a Spanish paper. It's a skate publication. I don't really understand too much of it. And this is Google translated from the interview, so the quotes might not be exact. But anyway, I just took out some snippets. Why Lakai? Well, the price is good. I used to skate, as they say, which is a classic line that you hear as a skater. And it has a lot of heritage. There's a lot of the work is already done, and the problems that they have are very easy to fix.
Yes, fire the problems that create the heritage, and then make it a money-making machine, which is what skaters love.
You get it.
I'm not trying to come off as smarter than this guy, but this guy seems a little out of touch.
It's also why you have a bunch of skaters have seen Lakai ads everywhere in the last month. So I actually got one on Reddit today, and there's been a bunch that I've seen on Instagram, and that's why this slide is incomplete, is because I was trying to get one on Instagram, and of course when I'm trying to get one, I couldn't get one.
Them, yeah.
But there's a bunch, and a bunch of people have been talking about how they're getting Lakai ads on Instagram constantly in the last month, which also aligns very well with his background, which is running e-commerce brands through Amazon, and that you're just doing a bunch of paid ads. That's how you drive business. In this interview, he also discussed what the strategy would be. Next year, one of our goals is to reduce the catalog. That makes sense if you are a PE company or trying to be a PE company attacking this problem. But making it a bit more core. They're gonna launch a clothing line. Their core demographic is gonna be adjusted. They wanna get closer to the audience. Yes.
Sorry, if you're reducing the catalog, doesn't that mean the catalog of goods? And then you're adding a whole new clothing line?
So he's saying that they make they have too many shoes. They have too many models of shoes.
Got it.
So he's gonna try and streamline, look at what the best sellers are.
And just do those.
Exactly.
Crank them.
Also, skaters, I think, will glom onto the core demographic and make it more core. There's a term in skating of core skating, the core industry. I don't think that's what he's referring to here. I think he's just kind of talking about, from a business sense, who is our core demographic. I don't think that necessarily means the core skate community is the core demographic. Historically, it is. Maybe he's trying to adjust that.
Interesting.
That's how I read this.
Yeah, he's not in the best position to be doing this.
Yeah.
Nor does it seem like he's in the best business position, because he's been just churning through companies, but who knows?
And then the meat of it. So what about Mike Carroll and Rick Howard? And he says they will have a great presence in the day-to-day running of the brand. Lakai can't be understood without Rick and Mike. And then he's asked about the riders, and he said the American team is not to be touched. They're going to expand it into Europe and other parts of the world. And the banks told him the first thing that he should do is get rid of the team. And he's like, no, you're crazy. The team is the brand. It's the soul. So this is what he's saying.
Right, but if you've ever been in an M&A that's involving banks who have a say in these things, he might not be the deciding factor.
Yeah.
Because if a bank has a say, that means they have a debt that they have a controlled interest in.
Then on October 29th, Mike and Rick are fired,
Shut up.
which I will get into a little bit more in a sec. On November 6th, he makes a post on Instagram. It's a 5-slide post. Most of the skate community have been through this by now. So Lakai's been losing $1 million and weeks away from being shut down. It's been sold twice before. We talked about that. Rick and Mike haven't had ownership in the brand for a number of years. They have worked there. They've been the face of the brand, but presumably they were diluted out at some point in prior sales. And it's been on sale for a year and nobody wanted to buy it.
Okay.
Regarding Rick and Mike, this guy Mark, I guess, offered them 10% ownership stakes. Not clear if that was to each of them or 5% each, I don't know. And they would also get the same salaries as the leadership team. And what Rick and Mike had to do, though, was take 23% away from the skate team budget, and that's the deal, right?
But that's exactly what Mark said they wouldn't do. He said they'd do the right thing and keep salaries and expand the skate team. They wouldn't touch the U.S. team.
He said they wouldn't touch the team. He didn't say they wouldn't touch their salaries. But actually, I think it's more, I think that gives more evidence to what you suggested earlier. He doesn't have full control.
Right.
So he might have thought that's what he wanted to do, but then there's actually a bank saying,
Ha ha ha, silly. We're not going to fund this.
yeah. And so anyway, I guess Rick and Mike were supposed to talk to the skate team and figure all that out. This post was spawned by some rumors going around on the Slap message board, started getting rumors of Rick and Mike have been fired, yada, yada. Then regarding the skate team, most of them didn't have a contract. So the plan was to give them a contract. And Rick and Mike were supposed to be the ones talking to them and going through that. And he's like, I don't know if they're actually doing that. So now I'm going to go talk to them and make sure that this happened. And then he addresses the future. Plan hasn't changed. Goal for 2025 is a 3-step plan to build a skate team with skaters all over the world, make full-length films and travel videos, and create a hometown hero program for talent scouting and community building.
I feel like Mark, his history really shows he's trying to make the big bucks pretty quickly. And I feel like he's not understanding that like a skateboard shoe brand is not the way to do it. It's not that you can't do it, but you're not going to do it in 2025, 2026. Mark, you're a bad mamma jamma, and not in the cool way.
Building the culture and building the brand for the brand to be valuable on its own is not really what he's interested in. And if you look at what he's done with some of the other brands and how he talks, I listened to more of that podcast. He lives over in like the Philippines because he wants to be close to China, because he does get involved with like the supplier side and the manufacturing side and figuring out how to get things more inexpensively priced to him. And so on top of that, I would guess he's looking at more of those markets as ways to expand and take a Lakai brand to a bunch of people who don't necessarily know all this drama, and give hometown heroes shoes, flood Instagram and the internet with ads, and all of a sudden the brand is everywhere and you're going to click it. It's actually very similar to the Cariuma model, I don't know that model. So Cariuma got a bunch of Instagram popular skaters and hooked all them up and had a very big digital first presence with a bunch of ads and things like that, as opposed to going the more quote unquote core skating route where you build a team of superstars and you go out and film an epic video. It's just, hey, like somebody realized why go, Cariuma kind of challenged the notion of why spend years making a full-length video that's really good and really epic and speaks to skating at its core when you could go film someone do a really nice looking tray flip on flat ground that has a lot of Instagram followers and probably sell close to the amount of shoes with
Yeah.
a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
That's my guess as to what he's kind of doing here, or going to do. So anyway, last slide of his post, next steps. As far as we're concerned, still at the negotiating table to bring Rick and Mike back. And
No, that says are open to Rick and Mike potentially buying back the company.
oh yeah,
That's not them coming back. That's
Yeah.
saying, anyways, if you guys have more than a couple $1,000,000, you can have it back. Marc Roca, just a dude trying to save Lakai with his own money. No, it's not your own money. We know that. We know that from how this deal has gone down. We know that.
Then on November 7th, Riley Hawk announces that he is leaving. Most of the other skaters have left as well. And on November 10th, Mike Carroll makes a post on Instagram confirming that on October 29th, he was let go from Lakai with Rick because they refused to cut the team.
Is that hashtag supposed to say free Lakai?
Yeah, it is. That's funny.
Yeah. Oh, furry calamari. Gives me a bad image, but that's sad, dude.
Yeah. So then, like, what else has changed? I mentioned that there's a bunch of paid ads that people have been seeing everywhere. The shops that have been carrying Lakai, because they're stuck with this inventory, they've all discounted it severely. Like, they're selling Lakais for $50. Great time to buy Lakais, actually, if you like skating them.
Yeah, but I guess, why are the shops discounting them?
One, they're trying to get rid of it. Lakai is not going to be putting much more marketing into selling their brand. And so skaters who go into these shops aren't going to be hyped to buy Lakai,
Yeah.
especially if you're looking at an $80 Lakai shoe and an $80 Adidas shoe. You're going to buy the $80 Adidas shoe. You're not going to buy the defunct Lakai brand. On top of that, you as the shop have already paid for this product. It's not going back anywhere. So you kind of just want to get rid of it. And you don't have a relationship with the brand anymore that you have to maintain. So
Yeah.
you just sell their products for whatever it works for. You don't care about the MSRP anymore. Also, interestingly, since that post on the 6th, there's been nothing else posted on Lakai's socials versus they did 22 Instagram posts in October alone. So today's the 14th of November. So they've like totally stopped.
Doesn't seem like Mark's investment is going well.
Yeah, he's completely killed the brand. At least as far as the core skate community is concerned. It remains to be seen whether this is something, he could turn around to be successful with in non-skate communities and sell a bunch of shoes, and then, the brand might not be worth it, but maybe he can make some money off just selling shoes.
We're not rooting for Mark. It's a beautiful thing when someone within a community wants to make something and they're able to make it successfully. Now, it does seem like since Fully Flared, they haven't been doing the greatest job, but it was respectable and clearly beloved by some portion of the skate community. That was depressing, Ryan.
Sorry. And that's it.
You've left me depressed.
Oh, man.
I'm not against capitalism. I want to be very clear. But like, how many times do we have to watch this fail? A PE or some VC person scoop up something with a ton of culture and be like, I'll make a lot of money out of it. And then they just destroy it. And they destroy the community and the culture and the people who built their livelihood off of it. It's disappointing. Sometimes you don't have to make money at all costs. Sometimes making a living is perfectly okay, and it makes a ton of people a lot happier.
It means as a skater, you gotta show up for the brands that you do care about. And so, if you wanna hem and haw about why couldn't Lakai make it, or I love it so much, but this stinks, then, you should have bought some Lakais if you care and support them before they face financial ruin. I wish I could credit who gave this advice, but it was talking about how if you like a pro, and you like what they're doing and the videos they're putting out, you should buy that pro's board.
Yeah.
And there's in any given year, there's a handful of video parts that I really enjoy. and want to watch or will watch again. It's kind of the metric. Which ones do I rewatch? And I realized I don't buy those pros boards. I kind of just go into the shop and just pick something randomly. And so I've been trying to do a much better conscious job of thinking, whose name on this wall have I liked and appreciated their skating lately, as opposed to necessarily just picking out a cool graphic. Hopefully it aligns.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's really nice that Amazon can get you the thing you want tomorrow. But the people that you love to follow on Instagram or whatever, like they can only get it to you in 2 weeks. And it's probably worth the wait if you want them to keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm a little depressed with capitalism, the state of the world right now, because it's not fun seeing all small businesses run to the ground and devoid of culture and community. But, well, rest in peace, Lakai.
Well, that's all.
All right. That's it. Try not to be too depressed.
All right. Well, see ya.
Bye.